appeared. Unofficially, satellites were still watching. And those satellites tell a very specific story. The plane didn't turn north toward Miami. It didn't head west toward Europe. It flew east, crossed the Atlantic, cut across Eurasia, and landed in Beijing. That alone should make you pause. Because cargo planes don't fly halfway around the world in the middle of the night without a transponder, unless they are carrying something that does not want to be seen. The mainstream media will tell you nothing happened. They will say it was routine logistics, industrial equipment, spare parts. But intelligence analysts, flight trackers, and people who actually follow the movement of strategic assets know better. According to multiple intelligence sources, Nicolas Maduro has just liquidated what remained of Venezuela's strategic reserves of gold and silver. This was not a market transaction. This was not a trade designed to get the best price. This was an evacuation of national wealth. The metal is gone. And it is now sitting inside Chinese-controlled vaults. This isn't unprecedented. We've seen this movie before. In 2019, similar ghost flights quietly moved tons of Venezuelan gold to Russia and Turkey, deliberately bypassing Western airspace and Western banks to avoid U.S. sanctions. That operation worked, and now the same playbook is being executed again, this time with silver. Why silver? Because silver is no longer just an industrial metal. It is no longer just a retail investment. Silver has quietly become one of the most strategic resources on Earth. And China understands that better than anyone. China knows the US dollar is weaponized. They've watched Washington freeze assets, seize reserves, block access to SWIFT, and turn the global banking system into a tool of foreign policy. They know that any nation holding wealth in dollars or storing metals in Western vaults is one political decision away from losing everything. So instead of trusting paper claims, Venezuela physically moved the metal. Out of Western reach, out of Western jurisdiction, out of the dollar system entirely. This is the great silver exit happening at the state level, and China is more than happy to receive it. China produces roughly 80% of the world's solar panels. Every single one of those panels requires silver. China is electrifying its grid, expanding EV production, building military hardware, and rolling out advanced technology at a scale the world has never seen. They need silver more than any other nation on Earth. By accepting physical silver from desperate, sanctioned states like Venezuela, China is acquiring strategic resources at a massive discount. They are trading manufactured goods, political protection, surveillance technology, and diplomatic cover for real, tangible assets. No dollars involved, no Western banks involved, no permission required. Every ounce of silver that leaves Caracas and lands in Beijing is an ounce that will never hit the COMEX. It is removed from the global market permanently. It will not be leased. It will not be rehypothecated. It will not be dumped to suppress price. It will sit in a vault, reserved for China's future. This single flight proves something critical. U.S. sanctions have failed. The strategy was to isolate Venezuela, collapse the regime, and force compliance through financial pressure. Instead, the pressure pushed Venezuela directly into the arms of China and Russia. By cutting them off from the dollar system, the U.S. forced them back into real money, gold and silver. In the process, we created a parallel global economy, one where the dollar is irrelevant. Rogue states are now settling trade directly with physical commodities. Oil for gold, technology for silver, resources for weapons, all without touching New York, London, or the U.S. Treasury. The weaponization of the dollar didn't strengthen American power. It exposed its limits. You might be thinking, okay, but what does Venezuela have to do with me? Everything. The global silver market is tiny, shockingly small. A movement of just a few hundred tons is enough to create shortages in wholesale markets for weeks. When that supply vanishes into a Chinese vault, the pressure shifts instantly to every other buyer on Earth. Apple, Tesla, Samsung, defense contractors, mints, refineries. They all have less metal to fight over. That's why premiums rise. That's why deliveries get delayed. That's why your local coin shop suddenly can't restock. When a sovereign nation empties its vault, the ripple doesn't take years. It takes days. Watch what happens next. The media will start changing the narrative. They'll call it conflict silver or blood metal. They'll say buying silver supports dictators. They may even push for restrictions or bans on certain bars or sources. This is always the playbook. When the West loses control of a resource, it doesn't admit failure, it demonizes the asset. But China doesn't care about narratives. China cares about physics, about weight, about supply chains. In a resource war, metal beats moral outrage every single time. And China isn't acting alone. Russian Wagner-linked security units have reportedly been involved in protecting these shipments. Russia, like China, has been stockpiling precious metals for years to sanction-proof its economy. What we're witnessing is the formation of a commodity axis. China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran, A block of nations pooling resources to build a financial system that doesn't rely on U.S. treasuries or Western banks. In this system, silver works perfectly. It's valuable, portable, anonymous, and universally accepted. We reported recently that COMEX vault inventories are draining. Now we know why. This isn't retail demand. This isn't